bark, bark.
Okay, great. This is super helpful. So, to introduce myself, my name is Emily. I am the Chief Marketing Officer with Brainiest.ai, and I am going to walk you through using some of Brainiest. So, our main topic today is going to be identifying your target audience with using our customer personas, applet, and then how you kind of use what knowledge you gain from that through some of our other applets. If you have other questions along the way or at the end, please do let me know. So I'm going to share my screen and we will start with just getting on to Brainiest AI. So if you have never been on our platform at all, you would go to pricing and you would scroll down and you would choose one of the plans. Most people start with monthly. You'd click the start 7-day free trial. You'd put in your information. You'll start your subscription at the bottom, and then it will get you into the workspace. Once you've got your login, normally when you go to our homepage, you would come up here to the header. You'd hover over login and click. And then you fill in your username and email. I always recommend additional layers of security for folks. And then you click login. The first time you enter, you will come up with a survey. This helps us figure out how to continue to tailor to your needs. And then you would hit submit. If you do that, it won't come up for you again. If you don't have time to do it, then you can just click the box to close out. And then you get to our Let's Get Started page. This video is an explainer video of how Brainiest works. This subscriber homepage also gives you more information on where you can go for guidance within the site, as well as listing information about this Zoom session so that you can always find how to link to that. We also have some videos on helpful tips for getting started, depending on what some of your main goals might be. In this case, today we are going to come up to our headers. You can see them up here. Audio and video has several categories. We will be actually pushing some more applets out at the end of this month, and our applet count will be over 50 at that point. So we have the headers up here, and then you can see which applets are on there: audio and video, brand development, content creation, which has lots of subheadings with different applets, and then customer insight, marketing strategy, and promotional tools. The develop customer personas lives right now under the customer insight heading. So we're going to go into develop customer personas, and as in all of our applets, right now the format we have explains in about a paragraph kind of why you might use this applet, what it's for in terms of how you market your company. And then in this case, we have some additional explainers about the types of personas that you want to consider, because that is one of our first categories. It's a drop down. It has the red asterisk by it. Whenever there's a red asterisk, that means it is a required category. We're very upfront in terms of how we demonstrate that to you. There are things that are absolutely necessary for any AI model to generate the result that you're asking for. Sort of the popular idea sometimes seems to be that AI reads your mind. It absolutely does not. You have to do some work to put inputs in here. We try to make that easier by letting you know which things are well and truly required to get any sort of result from them. That said, the fields that we have put in here are not random. Everything has been designed in this space by people who have a lot of experience in marketing It just so happens that they also have experience with coding and software. And so these are not random fields. The more you put in, the better your output is going to get so that it doesn't read as maybe some of the more generic AI answers that you've probably seen everywhere where you think, wow, that just sounds really off and not quite human. Um, it's because AI in general, can kind of have a tone in and of itself that we can spot as a little inauthentic. Um, and also, most of us in a new space like AI don't know what we're supposed to prompt it with. That takes a lot of time. Um, so we kind of make that easier on you, letting you know these are the things that, especially if you were going to hire a marketing consultant, a good marketing consultant would ask you. They would be gathering this information from you in order to put together a customer persona for you
So,
or more than one.
Emily, I do have a couple questions on this. I spent some time in our, and I appreciate the context that you just provided there. I struggled with it a little bit. I try let's say I'm doing a buyer persona, or no, let's say I'm doing a user persona.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't even to the point of where when it got to the gender, I wanted to select all, and it wouldn't, and I couldn't figure out does other mean all because I couldn't select
Yeah.
male and female. I could select male or female or other. And what if I wanted to select having a bachelor's degree or above? Or what if I want to select an income level of $120,000 and above? It didn't let me do those things.
So these are all great points. And things that, funnily enough, I have brought to the attention of our coders behind the scenes to see if we can change some of those things. This feedback is really helpful to know that in using it, I am not the only one who ran into some of this where I wanted slightly different things. Um, we always welcome feedback. I
Okay.
really appreciate you giving it to me here, and I will make sure I pass that on. And if you encounter anything like that in any of the other applets, please, please, please go ahead and contact us. Send us an email and let
Okay.
us know. That said, there are some workarounds which I've learned from working in these spaces, much like you would use with any other kind of software or program. So in this case, I was working on an audience one. This is actually something I did not so long ago for our own company, Brainiest.ai. Um, and an age range didn't matter to me, and it's not a required field. So I simply didn't choose an option so that it doesn't consider that as something that needs to be specified
Okay.
in there. Um, Same thing for gender. You can do the same thing for education level if you want, although I do agree with you. I think it would be nice if maybe you could select multiple there.
Yeah.
Um, Income level, the same thing. This is actually really funny, and I feel better personally that you brought this up because one of my recent requests for changes in this applet was that we could either choose a like our own range to build
Yeah.
in here or be able to select more than one.
Well,
Um,
in,
so those
yeah.
changes will be coming.
Okay. And you brought up another one final point I wanted to make on this too. When you look at, if you go back up a little bit and you select the audience persona type,
Mhm.
depending on what field you're in, there's so many different personas. And I'm wondering, I know you have an other, but is there it would be nice to have one that can be customized. That's the persona of, let's say, if you're an IT and the persona of an architect is this. I just curious. I'm not asking. You can ask the world of products like this, but something that could be self-defined would be interesting.
it is an interesting point. I can explain how I use it. So you're right that you have very often, most products or services do more than one target audience,
Hmm.
right? Um, so what I use this for is to build out separate target audiences
Correct.
through the customer persona lens. And so you're right, I don't do it all at once. Like it's not like I fill this out and it will create multiple customer personas, for different segments of my target audience. I have to go through and do that myself. Um, so in our case, I've created, I want to say I'm up to four um, different customer personas to represent different segments of my target audiences there. Um, it
So can I
can,
make sure I understand what you just said? Did
yep.
you were able to build out four, like let's look at the customer selection only. You were able to build four different customer personas?
Yes, but not in one
Uh,
go. I refresh and then I refill in
oh,
anything that's
okay.
changed
You
from
weren't
it.
able to do like a customer one, a customer two, a customer three, but it,
Not in
so
one
you had to
go.
do a
It won't
refresh. Okay.
generate, yeah, it won't generate multiple for
Got it.
you
Okay.
with it.
Okay.
And you can see a little bit more what I'm saying here, like as I go down. Um, so in this case, the industry is marketer. But let's see if I've got it anywhere. Um, so this one maybe isn't the best example of it, but let's say we've got like small business owners, right? Is one of our segments. Well, a small business owner can work in any kind of industry or market. I mean, you can be a masseuse, you can own a software company, you can sell medical test kits, you can there it's just endless what you can do. So in that case, frequently I would choose other and then I would type in, like small business owner. You can see it's already showing up because I've done this before. And then I can describe different types of things. So there are potentially multiple jobs that this one of my target audiences could take. But frequently I will just pull one of those threads out for the actual customer persona because the persona is more of like an avatar that you're creating for this to help kind of storyboard their journey for yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, to me it does, yes.
Okay, great. Um, so definitely let me know as you work through this, like areas that may have been frustrating to you that they were required or why not. Um, and then consider two things that, you might need that might be important for how you segment your customer base that we don't have a way for you to fill it in here. Um, so I'll give an example that comes from us that we've found is important. Um, as we went through this, I realized that one of the big issues we were having in marketing Brainiest is that if people were not people who were doing a lot of their business on a desktop or a laptop, Brainiest didn't make sense for them. And so that's kind of an important piece of who our customer is that piece of technology or how they work. And so in that case, I tended to put that under their buying behavior. Um, like that would be a past relevant purchase that they had. Similar to if you are someone who, and I used this example in a webinar yesterday, if you sell, you know, different types of cell phone cases, it's going to be important to you that one of your that your audience, one of their past purchases is in fact a cell phone, and probably more particularly a cell phone that fits the kind of case that you're selling, right? So these are things that we don't always think of immediately, um, even as marketers. But if you come across something like that as you're developing a customer persona and you just can't find a good place to fit it in here, please do reach out to us and I'll see if there's a place I think it fits in. And if not, then that's something that needs to go to our software team to talk about adding another field. Um, okay, so again, you know, you can put as much or as little in here as you want. There are things that we think are more required. It might make more sense for you to choose more vague categories or answers in that area. If it's something that we don't have, please let us know. Um, and we did try to make sure that things like age range and gender, et cetera, which may be very, very important and required for certain products, um, you don't have to choose, because in other cases, those things are, you know, gender neutral, age neutral. You know, maybe you wouldn't be selling it to kids, but outside of that, it's not particularly relevant. Um, Media consumption habits. This gives you some sense of the platforms they're on. This is where you do want to consider a little bit more, maybe what an age range vaguely in your head of this person might be like. Um, Same goes with other media preferences, because we do know that there are some differences generationally. Um, you can alternatively just highlight all of them if you think age doesn't matter and some section of your audience is using those platforms. And I will add here that we do recognize that the social media landscape is shifting a lot right now with some instability with TikTok, some changes in Meta. So if you think there's a major social media platform that we are missing, um, please let us know. That's going to be an interesting area to watch. Yeah. Then we get into psychographics, interests and hobbies. So this is where, in our case, you know, as you try to market Brainiest, sell a product like this, usually people's interests and hobbies aren't something that we care about a lot. And so I've kind of turned it a little bit so that it's more focused on their interests within their own career and their job. You know, what they're serious about, what they want to achieve at work, where they want to maximize things, values that are not necessarily larger values in life, because I'm not really selling a recreational product, but instead, what are their values within their career? Um, you know, lifestyle, this is something that can be relevant when you're thinking about folks who need to adopt a completely different kind of product or new way of doing their work. Um, and so it may be, you know, this isn't fully filled out. Maybe I need somewhere in there like, you know, tech curious or tech savvy, um, you know, willingness as part of their lifestyle, open to change kinds of things. Because you don't really know what you'll hit on as you consider those features.
Yeah.
Um,
Emily, just for a data point, both use cases that I'm working on are they're lifestyle related. So
Interesting.
not career, not people trying to do their job, but my buyers, they're it's all lifestyle related. So
Oh, interesting. Okay.
yeah,
So that's an area that you've been focusing on a lot then.
well, yeah, absolutely. So for me, those were very helpful
Oh, great.
items to put into the model.
And that's too, when you think about like lifestyle and interests and hobbies, think too, you can tie that back into that buying behavior and their purchase history as well, because that can end up being really, really relevant to how you think about marketing and then eventually selling to different people. Um, so yeah, thanks for letting me know that. That's interesting. And then we get into goals and challenges. So your customer needs, pain points, and their journey. Um, so let's start with customer needs. More often than not, if you are someone who is particularly a business owner, you very likely developed your product or your service based on a lack of something that you saw somewhere. There was to you a void and you were filling it. Some need wasn't being met. So, in many ways, you're kind of your first customer in terms of being able to identify what those pain points are with what you've already seen out in the market and what the needs are. And that's not a bad thing because you know that really well. So those are some good areas to potentially draw from there. And then the customer journey. And depending on the product you have and how much is like one discrete buy versus something that you would want them to habitually buy or do a service to use multiple times, or if there is a way that there is upselling or add-ons to the product, that all changes your customer journey too, um, rather than just they use or they don't use this product or service. And anytime you're not sure what any of these things might mean, come up to the paw up here and click on that. And that's your chat with Astro. And you can type in, things like what is a customer pain point? What does a customer journey look like? If you don't feel like that's getting detailed enough and there's not enough information for you in the examples that we provide underneath that, where the screen originally popped up on the bottom right or in the tips, then I recommend you go to the top right of the header and there's an orange get an answer that'll pop up in a separate tab for you. And that's more research based. It's tied to a real time AI model. So it's the most up to date research. And you can ask things like, give me some examples of a customer journey. And sometimes that's all it takes is seeing a few examples to get you to think about how your product or service fits into that and what that would look like. I personally use Get an Answer all the time. I find it really helpful. Okay, then we get down to buying behavior. Like I said, I personally was sort of surprised by how, in unexpected ways, past purchase history can be tied into it. Um, I hadn't thought of that in our initial go round, and it helped us target our ads differently. Um, I don't know how many of you have done digital marketing before, but you can choose which channel, which medium you want ads getting to your potential customers and reaching people. And so it made more sense for us to start targeting more on people's computers as they were looking through things rather than spending more money and hitting too many cell phones, because you want them to click directly in and be able to see how it works and really use it effectively from there. Um, It has more information about those sort of buying purchases. And depending on what you do and what your product is, again, certain areas are going to be more important to you than others. Like Paul, you mentioned you really didn't care about, gender or certain brackets of other things, but that lifestyle was really important to you because it's the lifestyle product. Um, you're not penalized in any way, shape, or form. It's not bad to ignore some of these other categories if they're just not relevant to who you need to get your brand out in front of, your product out in front of. And then we've got feedback on existing solutions. This is an area that I recommend using as much as you can, and you will continue to get more information about this as you continue to market and are getting feedback from, what's hitting with audiences, what's not hitting, things that work, things that don't work, what your own expectations were and how those change as it goes by. So in our case, things like current solutions used were really, really important, um, because we want to make sure that people, especially in a new space, may already understand what their frustrations are. They have used things like digital imaging software, Chat GPT, or other AI platforms. They are aware enough of some business software subscriptions to be able to realize how much easier it is to simply fill in these forms, so that it's not as big of a learning curve as, say, getting a new CRM system. Um, and then it talks again more about some of these gains, pains, unmet needs, all of these things that you probably know about your business initially because you are one of the customer personas, but then think about how that might be different for another segment. Brainiest does not have any limitations on generation of any of our applets. That includes the imaging applets. So, like Paul and I were discussing, you can do this more than one time to create multiple customer personas. Um, Not just, in from different categories like user, audience, buyer, but in the same category. You can do this multiple times. You can, skip a section of this and generate your result and then realize, gosh, I shouldn't have skipped that section. I think that might have been important. And then just hit refresh and go back. So I'll show you what happens with this current one that I put in. I'm going to hit generate. And the little flashing dots show me that it is working. The one thing I have noticed when I do multiple customer personas on here is, for some reason, probably because it is gender neutral, this might change if I cared more about gender. The name Alex is used all the time in the result, and I think probably because it's more gender neutral. So sometimes if I'm creating multiple personas, I will have to do a search and replace to change the name to separate those out. So in this case, it gives me a rundown of some of the things that I already said were important, right? All of the characteristics, and it gives me a nice little summary of what those things are. And then it gives me recommendations for marketing efforts. So highlight AI capabilities, position for growth, showcase case studies and testimonials from other marketers who achieve career advancement using the platform, time efficiency, engage on preferred platforms. So it will give you these sorts of recommendations. You can always decide you like it or dislike it. If you want to see something different, hit regenerate. You don't even have to go back, refresh. If you don't want to change anything and you just want to see if there's another option that it comes up for you. And then once you do that and a result is generated, there will be a little button that we'll see over here that pops up that's exchange so that I can move back and forth between the first answer and this answer and see if I like it better. I can copy both of them if I want, paste it into a Word document, a PowerPoint, however this might be um, presented to a team or most effective for my own use. And like I said, if I look at this and I realize, all of a sudden, like based on everything else I'm seeing in this, I realize, gosh, like that income level just doesn't really match this. I need to change that. Or this would have been so much better if I would have, beefed up the buying motivation section because I just think I'm not hitting it with the recommendations for marketing efforts. I just hit refresh. Refresh always takes you back to the original input form, and then you can tweak from there. And again, you can generate multiple times. If you finally hit to a place that you like and you have a team that you work with, or you're looking at, hiring someone externally for consulting or something, you can always download these inputs. They will be stored on your computer as a CSV file. You can put them wherever you want, and then that way it's easily shared with someone else where they can see the inputs that you've put into the fields. So does all of that make sense? Does anyone
Yeah,
have
it
any
does.
questions?
Yeah, I played with this a little bit, and for my purposes, the first iteration, the second iteration, I think was pretty good. But you did bring up 2 points that, or maybe one point that I wanted to talk about was the gender neutral and making it so, sometimes I'm looking for a company as a buyer, and sometimes I'm looking for a personal, and sometimes I'm with that personal. Gender does make a difference. And the next step that would be interesting for me would be to take my product or information about my product and overlay it to say what the buying triggers might be for this person. So I understand the concept of this is just to build a marketing persona, a total, for the marketing side, to create marketing messages. But I
Mhm.
would, I wonder if you could take it that next step and see what triggers might be for buying for actual purchase.
Yeah, I mean, that is something that can be really tricky to explore. And gosh, I'm thinking now about what are ways that that could be done because a lot of that, just requires the A/B testing with your market, right? Which things are they picking up on?
Yeah, and maybe purchase is too strong. Maybe it is uh just opening an email or taking the next step, some type of call to action. But I'm always looking for the next step, so you have this basic, you have information now, but what's actionable about it? How do you take it to the next step? And obviously that's not maybe that's really where the magic happens, not so much where Brainiest happens. Brainiest gets you going in the right direction.
And
So
you're right. That is where the magic happens. And, it is the human element. You do have to make those decisions for yourself, but
yeah,
you can look at some of those things, at the bottom of what's generated. So the recommendations
yeah.
for improving the marketing efforts. And then you could take those things and depending on what they are, um, you know, use it in things promotionally.
Yeah. I have to
Um,
jump. I have another call that I'm late for, but
Oh yeah, good luck.
always great to see and how to use this better. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Does anyone else have any
I
other
do.
questions?
I do. And I just lost my internet, so I had to log back in. Sorry about that. I would have
No
liked to have heard
problem.
the answer to that question. So I would like to understand if the applets are all disparate and unrelated to each other, or if some of the applets are foundational and they're then the information is drawn upon those applets as you're doing like content creation applets and stuff like that. So when I was going through like brand development and going through marketing strategy and all those different things, and I've always been in the sales side. I'm not a marketer. I've always
Mhm.
been in the sales side for my entire career. So hopefully this isn't a stupid question, but I'm just curious as to which one of these are, if any of these are used as a foundational inputs into the description of the company, my product, are different personas of the buyers or of who we're targeting, those different types of things. Are there some applets that I should fill out completely? They'll be fairly static in nature, and then all the other applets will be like content creation ones will be used to we'll draw upon those as they're used. Or are they just all interrelated? I mean, are they all unrelated?
A really good question. So, in terms of security and like communication from applet to applet, we don't allow a lot of drawing of information and saving of your information. Um, our team has a background with like Intel and Microsoft, and so they're very security sensitive about things. Um, so they are kept separately. We don't store a lot of your information. Anything that's stored is stored very temporarily. It's really, really secure. That said, from the marketing standpoint, many of these are interconnected. So the big foundational things to do first would be found under marketing strategy. So
Yeah.
you've got marketing plan or the ADA marketing framework. ADA marketing framework looks, I think, a little less intimidating to folks
Yeah,
who
I
have
did
never done
that. Yep.
marketing before. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a little less
no, they
scary.
were I did the marketing plan, I did the ADA marketing thing as well. So that's why I was wondering which one of these are foundational to complete and so go ahead. But
Would say your marketing plan and your social media plan, and you save those and you pull from those
okay.
into the other things that you want because all of your content creation, all of your ads, all of your emails, if you do press releases, if you blog, should all support your larger umbrella marketing plan. You don't want to waste time. You shouldn't be doing anything that isn't in the service of, kind of your main big picture.
Yeah.
Um, I do recommend, even though it is a lot of work and you will have to do it more than once, because it's very likely you do have more than one target audience. Doing that customer insight, developing customer personas,
Yeah, I did that too.
because target audience comes up in so many things. I mean,
Yeah.
right here, I'm on promotional email, um, target audience, description of the ideal customer. Sometimes it is as simple for me as like, the registrants, the folks that I met at Small Business Expo Houston, because this is something that's very specific to something that I talked to them about there. Other times, I'm going to be taking a different portion of my target audience, or one of my customer personas, and it's going to be just marketing consultants because this is part of an email campaign where I am highlighting one or two particular applets to help draw them in to Brainiest AI.
Yeah.
Um, and that I might do something totally different when I am trying to target digital marketers who maybe have much more interest in like the image generation. So that's part of why we don't just like carry over to other applets as well. Um, you mentioned that, you were looking at some of our competitors too. I've used those websites. Um, my biggest complaint is actually how little is needed to put in about my business before AI spews something out that is pretty generic. Um, and that it's kind of shared across everything. So I felt like I kept getting the same generic thing. There wasn't a lot of differentiation. Um, the other great thing for me personally when using our product is this will tell you what a control freak some of us
Mhm.
are, like me too. Um, I would prefer to separately do my text and then have more control over my image generation. Because in my experience, even with like writing our blog posts, so we have a blog post applet. I talked about this extensively last week. You should be able to find that discussion, that demonstration on our YouTube channel. Um, I go through this, I hit generate as part of what it generates for me. There's a little section that tells me a suggested image. And I could take that and I could use that as an input into one of our many imaging applets. Create image from text. I could use any of these for it. The issue that I run across is AI models tend to give the same generic um, ideas for images. They lack the human creativity. And so if I were to listen to the AI models, every single one of my blog posts would have an image of a group of people collaborating in an office, and there would just be sticky notes everywhere in the image. Um, or it would be that I'm sure you've seen it, the like kind of blue light looking robot human thing with a light bulb in it, right? Because it involves AI. Um, so I personally like to have a lot more separation and more control over different parts because it is my own brand still, if that makes sense.
Yep. This is very good, Emily. I've got to run. Um, and you've answered my questions, and it was a good webinar today. Thank you for this.
Thank you. Any other questions? And please feel free to contact us if you have any of those tips, those points about, drop downs and things, options you wish you had in different fields. We'd love to hear it.
Will do. Thank you.
Emily,
Thanks. Yeah,
am I the last person standing here or sitting?
I think so.
I'm just getting back to my original question. I was actually driving during this, but I wanted to make sure to get on it. I did check Jasper some. I don't have a lot of time to drill down into the differences between you and some of your competition. So I caught some of what you said, that it's less apt to be generic output because you're asking for more input. Assuming we don't put garbage in, we're not going to get garbage out. Is that
Honestly.
kind of what I'm hearing?
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
So that would be one difference between you and the others?
That and our pricing, and we are not tiered pricing either.
Okay,
So what you see is what you get. This is you're still in our introductory price phase. And
right.
so you come in, it's this price, you have access to these 50 plus applets, including the imaging suites and things. We're not tacking on other fees. You're not going to be in there and say, oh, but I really want to do this. Oh, I'm locked out of that. They're
Okay.
asking me to pay.
So it's
That won't
introductory. So
happen.
that means the pricing might change down, will likely change down the road.
But I I can't be super specific about this. We're still in early stages, but I
Okay.
can tell you right now, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck, especially with the
And
imaging.
so do you have an at a glance difference between you and the competition, or is that something that's not available?
not explicitly between some of the other models that you or the other companies that you
Yeah.
mentioned. But I do have a table that shows like a difference between us and ChatGPT, which is more generic, obviously.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now that I've been on the other platforms, and the biggest difference to me was the quality of content, the price, and that it did some things that, at least for the way like our website, different social media campaigns, et cetera, go, didn't make a lot of sense for me.
Okay.
Like I created a blog post on there. It wanted to generate an image that went with it. They were all really generic looking. And then when I selected that, it didn't just use it as like set as a feature image. It inserted it into a lot of different areas, but the same image over and over and
Uh,
over again.
okay. It didn't give you a chance to apply it to different content.
Yeah, it was just a little odd.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, but
Anything
we do
else that
offer a free trial.
I know for 7 days. But
Yep,
I'm, I'm pressed in a lot of different directions. So I want to
sure.
make sure out of the chute that I make the best choice, and I don't have a lot of time to dig deep into the other ones. I just don't.
I get
So,
it. I get it. We're pretty upfront in every form about like, here's what's being asked, and here's where it's required, and here's where it's not. So you
okay.
won't, a benefit for me is you won't get into it, and then stuff keeps popping up where
Okay.
you think it looks like it's going to take 2 minutes and it doesn't. We're
Right.
very transparent about what's there and what we're asking.
Okay. And obviously the difference between ChatGPT, which I've been using and it's
Mm-hmm.
okay, and you guys is that um your developers or whatever you call them are marketers. I think I heard that earlier in your
Yes.
presentation. And in addition to being into coding.
Yes. In their case, God gave with both hands. They're
Yeah.
very lucky.
Okay. So that gives a leg up. We're not, and so prompting and all that sort of thing. Obviously, we have to know how to do prompts, but not as deeply involved as with Chat GPT.
No, no, it's not nearly as rigorous to get those kinds of results. We
Okay.
tell you exactly what you need to input. Really, what you need to know is about your business.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. I'm B2C. I heard a
Okay.
lot of B2B talk from
Mm-hmm.
you, but this is quite applicable to B2C as well, correct? Because
Absolutely.
I'm all about psychographic lifestyle, and gender neutral is definitely the case, but there's specific lifestyles that my customer bases, because I have multiples,
Yeah.
are that's where they're coming from. So
Lifestyle is a whole category. You can fill out, and again, in your case, it makes so much sense to spend a lot of your time on that category, whereas you just may not be interested in other ones,
yeah,
and in
yep. Okay,
case they're not required. But
very
it
good.
will get you thinking, since it's up front, oh, maybe I should think about this.
Right. Okay, very good. I'm going to try it for 7 days and
Great.
likely sign up after that, but I wanted to talk with you first before I even took the time with the 7 day trial. So, okay.
And email if you have any questions.
Bark, bark.